right, we'll get started here. Stepping in for Josh this week. He's still out on wedding and honeymoon, but should be back next week. So October 8th, Friday Forum. We'll get going. So first things first, big congrats, I guess, to Tom, Gabriel, Alan, David, everyone who worked on the Nutritionist Marketplace early access program. So that's officially launched in the app this week to about 250 members. Beautiful design, really cool to see the project come together across the product side, the business side. So good work, Tom, on kind of being the responsible individual on that. A newsletter went out this week, an email announcement went out this week to the members that have it activated. And the in-app experience is beautiful. So if you haven't played with it, definitely check it out. Top tier nutritionists in there who understand levels, and just a really nice experience all around. So well done there. Quick kudos to Jinlu for updating the feature flag manager UI and retool. Constant improvement in retool is great. So this improves usability, squashes some bugs, and just kind of keeps things up to date. We sent a inside the company edition of the newsletter. This was a quick test that Haney worked on. So that looked great. Got, I think, some good engagement. We're still waiting on the full numbers. And that also included a double opt-in conversion link. So we've been seeding the sign up link directly in the newsletter. And for the folks who are looking for it, they can get right into the beta pretty easily if they follow the link. So that's driving some signups that we're tracking, but it's definitely intentionally buried in there. David Sinclair officially joined the advisory board. This is a huge get for us. Super excited to be working with him and to have him on the team, essentially. You'll see we updated the website, so his bio and photo is now posted there. And we also have a verbal agreement to sponsor season 1 of his new podcast, Lifespan. It's starting early next year. So really awesome work by the team and really strong addition to the board. Whole New Level, continuing to publish new episodes there. Ben and David sat down for a chat about platforms. We released this on our podcast and also syndicated it to the Acquired LP podcast, which is the supporter kind of paid subscriber version of their feed. So some nice content there. Folks who aren't familiar with kind of the space have had some pretty positive feedback on it. So definitely recommend giving it a listen if you're interested. Whole New Level as a whole has reached 20,000 listens. So the pace of growth on that is increasing and getting some very nice distribution. And the Metabolic Insights feed as well, doing pretty well. Tom and the growth and marketing team starting to book some paid podcast promotions for 2022. So a few signed deals there are starting to roll in. We've got an Instagram partnership experimentation going on. And so signed Dr. James, I'm going to do my best in the pronunciation, D. Nocolantonio, author of Salt Fix. So a lot of folks know him and excited to be testing that. And then finally, this bottom photo, Stacey ran a New York City photo shoot. So we're constantly creating new photo assets. I'm sure they're going to look great. Very excited to see. This was also followed by a team meetup for folks in the New York area. So you can see a photo down there of Stacey, Casey, David, Mike, Helena, Mercy, Tom, Kunal, JM. Happy to see you all together there. And this angle of dinner table photo is becoming consistent. So added it to our meetups notion. Some other things to call out on the right-hand side. So over here, we're featured, or the wearable panel was featured from the CrossFit Games, was featured in the CrossFit email today, email of the day. Some VIPs to call out. We've got Andrew East, this YouTuber here. He's got 1.3 million subscribers. He's a former NFL player turned content creator. So VIP coming through the program. Mallory Irvin, she's got 744,000 Instagram followers, YouTube creator, blogger, content generally. So got her on board. And then Brent Fikowski, he's a top 3 CrossFitter, maybe one of the best CrossFitters around. So really resonating with that crowd and have him on board. Otherwise, we've got some experiments going with internal content. Mario from The Generalist working on some long form content about levels expected in the next, I think, 6 to 8 or so weeks, and also exploring some inside the company kind of culture documentation with the team from Morning Brew. Mind Body Green podcast recording and plenty of other exciting things. So yeah, busy week, lots going on, and kudos to the whole team for everything that's going on here. All right, I'm going to pass it off to Tom for an intro here. Tom, take it away.
Awesome. I've got my video off because my Wi-Fi is super strained right now with about 10 of my friends all using our house Wi-Fi, but very excited to introduce Kevin Jubbal. Kevin is an MD, entrepreneur, content creator, most importantly, a very early levels member. We actually got connected, I think about a year ago. I looked at my email and it was October 2020. So he's been on the journey with us for a long time. He's got a really unique background, quite a bit of overlap with Casey's actually, and I'll let him speak to that more, but he transitioned from practicing traditional medicine as a surgeon and then moved into the world of entrepreneurship and health education broadly. Kevin has interviewed both Casey and Josh for his YouTube channel, and then also did a review video of levels that I think has around 10,000 views, and it's arguably the best one that has been done online. So Kevin, I know you have like a million things going on these days, so we really appreciate you taking the time, and I'll let you just introduce yourself for a couple minutes.
Hey everyone, thanks Tom. Thanks guys for having me. Yeah, so my name's Kevin. I was doing plastic surgery residency, and then I dropped out of that back in 2018. And then since then, I've been working on various companies that are in usually like the medical education space. BlueLink was medical technology, but that one didn't, I'm not really involved with that anymore. So usually in the medical education space now with Medical Insiders and MEM. I got connected and aware of levels actually, I think because of a podcast, and I have a trainer in Austin. His name is Jesse. He's the founder of Central Athlete. So he's the one who mentioned he can like get me a code and like get me to skip the line. And so yeah, I purchased it back in October. I loved it. And then I reached out to you guys wanting to partner with content and stuff. And yeah, that's why we're here today.
Awesome. Appreciate you joining, Kevin. You could stick around for the meeting if you would like, but feel free to hop off now or at any point.
Okay, thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Kevin. So moving on, new hire to announce this week. Tony has officially come on board starting this past Monday. A lot of you are familiar with Tony. He's, I think, maybe over a year now, mostly doing some of our video content, some of our video editing. He's going to be joining the content and media side for all the work we've got going on with podcasts and videos. And he's already jumped right in. But Tony, I'll turn it over to you for an intro to the team.
Thank you so much, Miz. Oh man, it is just so exciting to be here and part of this team. It's just been such a pleasure working with the Levels team this past year and collaborating on so many video projects. And to be here now full time is just amazing. So super stoked to be here. And a little bit about my background. Previous to this, I was at Jamis Bikes. They're a bicycle brand, and I was there for a little over 9 years, producing, shooting, and editing all of their video content. I also shot a lot of their lifestyle photography, and you could probably see that on their social channels. And I also managed all of their social channels as well during my time there. Previous to that, and while I was also at Jamis Bikes, I was freelancing for several clients and through several production companies, and with Levels, of course, as well. So it just, yeah, again, super stoked to be here, being a part of the team full time now. And so, and I'm looking forward to just meeting everyone individually in the coming weeks and setting up some meetings with all of you. Yeah, super excited.
Awesome. Welcome, Tony.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have to say, working with you as a contractor has been pretty seamless. Just kind of like shoot you an email sometimes, and then a finished product comes out the other end with almost no guidance. So really excited to see now that you're on board what you'll be able to do. But it's been great working with you, and excited to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you, Miz.
All right, moving on to company priorities. No changes here. A lot of the same big rocks. We've got the membership model, migrating over to subscriptions and building that product out. A lot of really positive work here. I'm sure we'll get an update from JM as well. But Alan's has done some of the work for the in-app design. We're discussing what it means to launch in the App Store and what kind of structural changes we'll have to make. And then I think the flow to actually buy the membership has been implemented and is starting to be tested. So some good progress there. Guided journey, end-to-end product experience for the core program, also kind of a launch requirement. So we'll hear more updates about that shortly. And then social experiments, which Kunal is leading. We also have an update in there later on in the forum. Quick culture and kudos. Wanted to throw one out there for JM. It's done a really great job of just putting some long form thoughts into threads in the product and design forum that have stimulated some really healthy conversation. So just nice to see folks thinking about that and having some really productive interaction there and pretty thoughtful and deep thinking. So thanks, JM, for leading the charge on that and just setting a good example and keeping the momentum going. A shout out from Sanford Ben. We're repeating the prayer here, but closing the loop. Making handoffs unambiguous and just kind of makes working together as a team really effective. So thanks, Ben, for continuing to do that. And hopefully we don't sound like a broken record on the close the loop piece. And then finally, Tony, for jumping right in on week one. We have pretty clear expectations about onboarding, that you really focus on onboarding. Don't worry about getting into the work too early, but you've done a great job of providing feedback on onboarding, making some updates to the process, being really communicative about where you're getting stuck and what needs improvement. So that's been very helpful for improving for future hires. So thanks for your work there, Tony. All right, moving on to product and eng. I'll pass it off.
Membership, as Ms. alluded to, phase 1 is live for testing internally. So there's now a link that you can go to and go through the new flow. We're trying it out first. How the new flow works is it prompts users for subscriptions at the first order. So when you go through and you become a member, it will immediately ask you, would you like a CGM once or every month or something in between? The subscription is actually set up after the first shipment happens. So to test it properly, we have to go through that, let a shipment go, and then see if the subscription syncs up. Thank you, Shinlu, for finishing this up and getting it shipped, and also making a ton of little corrections on the text as we waffled a bit on what to write there for the V1. I anticipate this will be public early next week, probably Monday or Tuesday, at which point we'll be watching for any changes in conversion rate, and we'll go from there to phase 2. Finally, next slide. Blood work, Murillo took a big chunk out of this one this week, and I linked to an image of a loom that you could find in threads that outlines his good work on that first pull request for the order flow. Mike Haney putting together a post about the tests and the good results for the blog. More on that at levels.link/blood. I expect this will go to members in the next 2 or 3 weeks. We will hit the October timeline for that. That's all for me. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Josh. A lot of great progress and excited to see some of this get out to members. All right. Handing off to John.
Yes. Good progress this week on the tagging project, primarily thanks to some simplifications that we made on the UI side. Basically, we worked on 3 things this week. First, on the mobile side, we displayed the tag suggestions, and we updated the autocomplete component to differentiate if we are suggesting tags or just past logs, which is the functionality that we already had. On the backend side, we return tags based on the context. That is based on the time, the node, and the log type. Of course, these tags are for now hard-coded, but this context is also a placeholder for, in the future, passing the picture and suggest tags based on that as well. On the database side, we started working on the definition of the database tables to store global tags and user-specific tags. Next steps, we will start suggesting tags from the database, and we will remove the hard-coded ones. That's it.
Awesome. Thanks, John. And alluded to this earlier. Oh, sorry.
Let me jump in really quick. So next up would normally be scoring, but Murillo is out. He is getting married tomorrow and didn't have time today to make a video. But more importantly, I'm not sure there was that substantive of an update, and same thing with Guided Journey this week. So just quick to call out, those are not going to have updates, and I think that that's quite all right. So I think as we go on through the weeks, we're not going to try to jump through hoops to just come up with a substantive update. I think we'll just be reserving updates for times when we have a lot to talk about or a lot to showcase, and hopefully not just like a status update that we can read on Threads. So
Perfect. Thanks, Scott. Tom, go for it.
All right. Well, fortunately, I've got a substantive update, which is that we launched Nutritionist Marketplace V2, and that this is our second iteration of a nutritionist pilot, but this is the first version that we've launched in the app. And shout out to Gabriel and Alan and David and everyone else who touched this project. It was awesome to see how quickly it came together. And so we launched to 250 members initially, and there are 3 nutritionists on the supply side. And now pretty much we wait and see. We'll be using post-hog to monitor engagement. In the last day, there have been 150 people who have seen the card and 35% have clicked on it, which seems pretty high to me. And we actually had one person already just yesterday send a message to a nutritionist, which was a really cool moment to see. So you can see that there on the right side. So yeah, we'll keep everyone posted in the coming days. We'll be monitoring this closely.
Great. Really cool to see the membership offering. We saw the blood test offering obviously coming soon, and now nutritionists. So nice to be adding to the product line in terms of, in addition to CGM. So good work, guys, there. Welcome back, Justin.
Thank you. Great week off. Yeah, so table stakes design, it's kind of put on the back burner as we're trying to focus on making some member improvements on the home tab after we released the My Data update. But we did do some things this week, so I'm going to highlight those. Oh yeah, thank you to Steph for doing a great job last week covering for me on the update. It's great. So yeah, Steph, she did a bunch of like info and zone card improvements and a big, huge refactor of zone cards architecture. And she like outlined in this little graph here, like all the kind of like how you get to each card and what it like kind of breaks down to and how you get through the hierarchy. So that was very, very helpful. And I also, on the right here, you can see I added the new button stylings. So they all have like proper touch effects, and we're going to be using those throughout the app now. And I'm using those on the next screen. So if we go to the next one. This is what's being done for the dashboard, which is the home tab. Okay, so lots here. There's now a graph that instead of showing like the full, just a single day, and then like, you know, the day rolls over and you have like no line anymore. It's now focusing on either 24-hour, last 24 hours, last 12 hours, or last 6 hours. So you can kind of continuously see how your glucose is doing, and also your entries are now directly on the line. Remove the date slider at the top because this is focused now on just kind of a recent or today snapshot of your data, highlighting the last glucose value. So as every minute, I think I just kind of shift the chart over, and then it'll update this tooltip automatically and show the last value if there is one. Yeah, entries are added back in the line. We removed the zone indicators for now. Murillo, he added the metabolic scorecard back for the new scoring if it's today, and we also reverted the styling on that, so it looks how it used to. And next up, Steph's working on adding, you can see here in the middle there, the little plus sign next to the tooltip. So that's going to be added so that you can, you know, select a time and then directly add an entry on that time, which is a convenience thing that's missing from the redesign. And I'm going to be working on just being able to like add that, choose your time via modal. Right now, you just tap on them and then they'll just kind of cycle through. And then a bunch of other things. So, yeah, we also decided that we're going to show below the sleep card, the same card that's on the My Data tab that shows like the little mini chart for yesterday. So you can immediately look at yesterday's kind of recap as a summary and tap into it to like go to the day review for yesterday. So that should help being able to review what happened the previous day. And yeah, you can try this out with this version 1.3.24 internally.
Thanks, Justin. A lot in there, but great to see how it all comes together. And the app really is feeling like a massive step change from a few weeks ago. So good work to both of you. Thanks, guys. One other quick call out, Justin mentioned it at the end, version 1.3.2.4. I saw John post a note about this and figured it's worth the airtime. You should, we do a lot of releases throughout the day and throughout the week. And so it does take a little bit of work to make sure you're always on the latest version. What I've done is bookmarked Firebase on my phone. And whenever I have a moment, just download the latest version. Really helps engineering, really helps everyone kind of test out these apps before we ship them to members. So I know it can be tough to stay up with the versions, but try to stay up with it as much as you can. It's a huge help for the team and important for kind of dog fooding our own product here. I'll hand it over to Kunal.
We've been moving forward and executing on social. We have comments that are built out and in review. So super excited for that. That's going to be coming out next week. We're looking at. So looking forward to really testing that out with our members and then just peeking ahead at what's ahead for some of the social features. With the idea that we could test some of these things concurrently. We have Dr. Case's data, which basically lets certain members of the social feed have public profiles that are kind of like influencers and people could look to. So that's one option. And then another that we've been discussing as a more recent idea is what if people could share their actual aha moments that they're having on levels within the social feed. Right now, it's mostly food logs, but some of the most important information that members could share that's rewarding to share as well as rewarding to read are these insights. So doing some investigation there and then trying to as well think about if we can design a one-off challenge and add a social component to it. And then of course there's small groups. So a lot of ideas here. So we'll be ordering those out and coming up with a proposal for what order in which we're going to run through them. So excited for that. That's all for social.
Well, thanks, Kunal. For Alan.
Hey everybody, I forgot to update that cover slide, so let's run through it. What's design up to these days? So there was a lot of time spent this week focusing on sort of triage around line graphs and the dashboard. Really excited to see Justin and Steph jam on that and get something out to members pretty quickly. We've also been spending some time on onboarding and app sign up. They're kind of one and the same. In the future. One thing that I've been also enjoying this week was spending time just digging into sort of research on data visualization and how we can sort of improve the understandability, interpretability of our graphs and our data and make it feel sort of actionable and accessible to a wider population of people. And then planning for the future. So let's step into it. Next slide, please. So yeah, dashboard triage. This was a project that we decided at the outset of the week to really just swarm on this and address some of the gaps that rolled out with the previous incarnation of the dashboard. I'm really happy to see Steph and Justin jump on that. So we've got some nice updates coming out to you pretty soon. Justin already ran through some of these, but I think this is going to really set us up well for the future when we have more of a real-time experience, and we'll address some of the gaps that were coming through, like logging on the line. So excited to see that. That occupied a fair bit of time. Yeah, okay. Onboarding sign up. So doesn't look all that different from the previous week, but there have been some subtle improvements here in the onboarding, and I think we're almost at a place where we can just begin working on this and building it. So we've been tuning the onboarding to be just a little bit more interactive. So, if you provide information to us, say one of your goals is managing weight or finding an optimal diet, we can do things like say, hey, you're in good company. 65% of our members share these goals, and we'll try to relate your responses to them. You'll have the opportunity to sign up in the app. We'll have down the road, we'll have a free version where you can just maybe bring your own CGM or just explore the app without CGM data, but you can also sign up and do the full thing here. And then you can choose your subscription options. And then finally, one of the nice things about having a device presence is that we're going to be able to do some of this stuff like track the order. So if you order from within the app, we'll actually be able to integrate with something like Stripe and show this package coming your way. And as you wait, this is some things that we've heard in some of our member feedback is that they're waiting a long time. They're wondering what's going on. So we can give them a bit of a status update there. And we can also have these little videos or content so we can explain, here's what's in the box. Here's what metabolic health. Here's how you put on your sensor, things like this. And so as soon as they open that box up when it gets home, when it gets to their house, they're all primed and ready to go. Next slide. So some research. This was fun because I just get to do a bunch of reading, is looking at sort of observability. And I think there's all kinds of interesting things to do around the data that we have. And some of this was spawned by this exploration around sort of a more modular dashboard that's focused on real time. But how do we make sense of trends and traces in our data? And so just looking at some patterns that editorial largely uses around data. I think there's some really nice sort of subtle examples of, we've already seen how people respond really positively to dots on the line, but a common pattern in data visualization is say have a key and associate a color with a specific value. But can we start to find ways of doing more like this kind of stuff where we have in editorial land, typically you try to just annotate right on the graph. And that's because the graph isn't usually dynamic. So it's a bit more hard, it's a bit more challenging for us because data is moving all over the place and everyone's a little bit different. But I think there's some interesting design patterns that we can look at on integrating sort of our observations onto the graph for people. Next slide. Ooh, and my favorite one, planning. So we're starting to talk to agencies about developing sort of an illustration asset library, expanding the brand a little bit so that we have some assets that we can pull in. We can use on a more regular basis, like within the app, or even on things like, sign up on the web and so on. So just expanding our, our palette a little bit. And then we're beginning the search for a visual designer. I'm very excited about this because I love visual design, but I also really need to start focusing on some of the sort of longer term trends for the product. So yeah, we're going to start talking to people. We're going to put a posting up pretty soon and very excited. So send me names if you have any. That's it for design this week.
Awesome. Thanks, Alan. On that note, with hiring, the two open roles we've still got posted are software engineer and support specialist. Getting close with both of those. Software engineer will remain open. Support specialist will close once we get a candidate in. And then exploring on the visual designer side. Other addition to the screen, so we are at 34 full-time members as of next week. The new team member starting on Tuesday, we've got Lauren Kelly Chu, head of clinical product. A lot of us are excited for her to start, and I've spoken with her and worked with her. And then Jackie on the growth side, also very excited to have her join and kind of support both Tom and Ben's efforts and kind of grow that team out a bit. And then also signed and starting soon, dates to be confirmed. We've got Taylor Sittler on the R&D side and Jeff, a software engineer, starting in January. So a lot going on here. We'll open up that visual designer role shortly, but in the meantime, Alan's the right contact there if you've got some leads. I'll hand it over to Scott.
All right, quick update on some engineering hiring. So we have, I guess, kind of had this like, hey, we need to hire engineers directive, but we set out to just put some quantification around it. And so I wanted to share kind of the methodology and what it sort of means to build models, I guess, from a leadership standpoint and kind of how it can affect our behavior. So Andrew and I spent probably 3 hours together, just kind of like finger in air estimates about, hey, how, like if we had perfect like time to go execute like at a very senior, engineer backend and mobile sort of situation, how much time would it take us for us to do some of these things? And maybe more to the point, how much time are we willing to spend on them? So you'll see a lot of these, none of these should be very new. When I say provider marketplaces, by the way, I mean like nutritionist marketplace. We could have functional medicine marketplace, personal trainer marketplace. We just called it provider to simplify. So we basically said, hey, how many weeks would it take for us to get? Basically, this is like all the roadmap items that we kind of already know about. None of these should be fairly new. And so if you add all those up kind of at the bottom, you get like the perfect amount of developer months it would take to do that. But we have to go through what's called discounting to get us back to roughly reality on how we actually are able to build and ship a product. So next slide. Let's talk about the discounts. So these are things that are basically, if we had perfect staff level engineers executing on stuff with 0 interruptions, that's how we sort of plan the ideal execution time. But as we know, that's not the case, right? So we're assuming, all right, out of 5 days a week, you get about 4 days of solid productivity. Not everybody's a staff level engineer, so there's a good haircut there in terms of people that are juniors, mids taking longer. It's totally fine. We just need to account for it. Unplanned work, Jeremy's getting slammed right now with sort of like order status stuff. That's a good example. People take vacation time, and also responsive individual work is actually having a big impact on our engineering capacity right now. So if you add all these up, you get to about like 26% of the original ideal time, which is basically to say, hey, if we think ideally this is going to take about a month, it's probably going to take roughly 4 months in actuality, which is a little bit harrowing. So next slide. Here's where it gets a little bit weird, but I just want to call out, this is one of my favorite quotes. All models are wrong, but some of them are actually useful. So if you remember when COVID got started, they did all this good modeling and a lot of similar stuff. Hey, here's a bunch of inputs. Let's assume that these things are true. What number spits out the back end and how much does that scare us? So we can twiddle with the inputs. We're not going to know. The point is not to nail the number exactly. In terms of our roadmap delivery, it's not to figure out when are all these things going to be done. That would be nice. The point is to figure out like, what do we need to go higher to go deliver on this in a specific amount of time? And so a lot of these cells, I'm going to make this available. It's not for you to understand right now. But if we go to the next slide, what you'll see is that we put in some realistic hiring timeframes around engineers being fully ramped up, 1 to 2 a month starting in around January. And just with our current roadmap, it's going to take us till about October of next year, which is 1 year from now, to deliver on all that. So all this to say, next slide. Again, this model is not to predict when the roadmap will be delivered. It's to predict how quickly we need to get moving on hiring. All of these things here should be fairly familiar terms to you. There's nothing new. We're not committing to doing anything massive in terms of embarking on new features or whatever. So if you go to the next slide, this is the actual model kicking out when we need offers signed. So we need 7 developers to have offers signed by the end of December. We're going to need 16 by the end of March. We're going to need 23 by the end of June. Now, this should kind of horrify you in a good way, right? We were going to triple the team. Hey, this is awesome. We got to grow a lot. I think that the point in us doing this, me and Andrew, was to get a sense for how aggressively do we need to hire, and also how aggressively do we need to sort of ask for help from the team, right? Everybody's been working in engineering-ish like organizations before. We're going to need help to sort of get on LinkedIn, reach out to people directly. We're still a very small team, so it's very important that we get very mission-aligned people. But this is, 9 months from now or so, we're going to have tripled the engineering team. That's a lot of growth, all right? So this is why we do the models. I actually published a thread, I think, this morning, maybe early in the morning. And so if you want to get in and play around with it, you're more than happy to. Any feedback still certainly welcomed. But yeah, just thought I would share this.
Awesome. Thanks, Scott. We've got a lot to do here. But excited for what's coming. Chris is out today. I'm going to step in with some updates on the member experience side. So we've got a NPS of 73 for September, which is great. 35% response rate. We're working on the selection bias part here. We currently ask for the NPS survey at the end of the program. And so obviously the folks who have completed the program are responding. So we're doing work to get the NPS question asked earlier on in the journey. So in the weeks 1 through 3 emails and some other areas, and then tweaking the survey quite a bit more. Chris put out a great video with the September update and includes some pieces from thematic and just some of the text analytics work that's going on there. So really great Loom. If you haven't checked it out, definitely recommend it. Other positive call out, replacement rate is at a 7-week low, trending in the right direction. So something's going right here. We don't quite know what tweaks are working, but happy to see that that's trending in the right direction. Means better member experience, lower support load, and just better product experience all around. TruePill IRB support we're working on that, and then overnight flags are now visible to TruePill. This has been a big effort to make sure that orders that we request to be overnighted are handled before all the other orders, just to make sure that we're meeting member expectations in these kind of rush situations. And so we've been asking for that from the TruePill team for a while, and it's now through. So happy to see that progress. Over to Ben.
All right. Weekly recognized revenue, $118,000. We're at 181 for the month already. So well on our way to our goal of 300, and we're a week in. So that's very nice. 8-1 in cash, no changes to debt, and 42 months of runway. Next slide, please. Growth theme is finding alpha. So anybody who follows the markets or is into investing has probably heard this term before. If not, it might be a little bit obscure, but let's go through it. So what is alpha? Next slide, please. Alpha is the return on investment for an asset, usually capital, over a period of time compared to the market average or a benchmark. Next slide, please. So if we look at this, finding alpha, this is Warren Buffett or Berkshire Hathaway from 1965. It's till 2015. But if you compare what Berkshire did versus the S&P 500, so that is a market index of a bunch of different stocks all lumped together. It's kind of like the standard. Berkshire on average performed at 20% year-over-year growth, whereas the S&P performed at 10%. So that gap between those two lines, that is what is known as alpha. What does this have to do with our team at all? Well, finding alpha, we have something that we all invest every single day, and that's our time. So how can we find alpha in our time is a very good question. Next slide, please. There are a couple of ways. So delegation of time, execution of time, and efficiency of time. These are some examples that happen frequently and are starting to happen more. So if we think about how do we scale our time as a team, Tom has started outsourcing his slides for Form, and this sounds silly because it might take him what seems like 5 or 15 minutes. But that compounding over time is Tom being Warren Buffett compared to the S&P, right? So that's getting high leverage on his time. Haney probably has the highest leverage on his time out of anybody in the company, in the sense that he's built this network of writers and researchers and editors. So he is not the sole point for putting out editorial content. It's this amalgamation of all these resources contributing. Casey has started embracing inbox zero and batch processing emails. So the execution of her time when it comes to communication is so much higher leverage than it used to be. Ms. is super good about recording looms and doing async collaboration over sync, which even though it seems great to pick up the phone, you can get a lot more done when we create high leverage that way. And then Sam is notorious for listening to audiobooks on 3.5x. So this isn't for everybody. It's something that he worked up to, but that efficiency of time has allowed him to process and digest more books. So the takeaways are, we all have to scale our time through task management. We're going to have different ways of doing so. And I think the key is that if something's working, or if you have some like little thing that you do and you don't think much of it, it might actually help the team, right? Like it can help all of us learn from each other. So if you've got these little hacks or productivity things that you do on a daily basis, post them in threads, and then we can all see that, and then we can learn. So go find some alpha this week, and that is growth.
Thanks, Ben. Love growth theme. Always fun. All right, we've touched on most of these already, but calling attention again there on the left side that we have locked in podcast sponsorship in 2022 with Andrew Huberman's Huberman Lab, which is probably one of the fastest growing podcasts, period, certainly in the health space. And then also we're going to be sponsoring the full season 1 of Lifespan, which is David Sinclair's new podcast. That's going to be starting in January. And these are both just really huge wins. I'm personally very excited about these. And I think something to note here is just that locking in advertising deals with individuals like these folks means significantly more than a generic advertising deal. And there are a few reasons for this. So these are, not only some of the leading and most trusted voices in all of like health and science, but they work with very, very few product companies. And so when they do, they are endorsements of those products and of those companies and of those teams, which is very different than many other advertising deals where there's sort of this implicit understanding that the person promoting the product may not actually use it. So these are super important for us in many ways. And then moving in the middle there, formally signed a couple of agreements with YouTube creators, including Kevin, who was on the call earlier. And this is just to provide some support to these creators while also accelerating some of their production. So many more videos to come from both Kevin and Austin, who we've chatted a lot about the last couple of weeks. And then lastly, some experimentation. So Dr. James, I won't try to pronounce his last name. We're doing a 6-month partnership with him, and he has a really unique platform. He has a highly engaged audience. Regularly, he'll get 15 or 20,000 likes and hundreds of comments on his Instagram. So for 6 months, we're going to be testing different content across Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook with him. So looking forward to seeing how all that performs. That's it.
Cool. Thanks, Tom. And we'll do a September recap from Mercy.
Awesome. Okay, so this is our September recap. It's a bit late because I was out last week. So our top posts for Instagram just kind of quickly played there, but this one got saved and shared over 400 times, which is pretty cool. We also increased our followers. We reached and went over 40,000 followers this month on Instagram, which is super exciting. And then I'll just share a couple like interesting things that have happened. We shared our culture videos on Twitter. Sam did like a tweet storm of them, and within the first like 24 hours of those being out, there was over 100,000 impressions on them, which is massive for Twitter especially. Levels won GQ's award for best fitness tracker. We released the episode, a whole new level episode with Sarah Gottfried. We got a ton of positive feedback on that. People really enjoyed that episode a ton. Our followers really enjoyed our posts on why you should exercise after breakfast, which a lot of people were very surprised by that one. And that individual post alone was saved over 300 times and shared a couple hundred along with that. And then we shared our metabolic book club recording, and that was really popular on Twitter. And then if you could go to the next slide, please. And this is just some really cool user-generated content from this past month that came up on Twitter and Instagram. Obviously, this is not all of it, but this is just kind of a quick look into what our followers and members are really loving and really enjoying about being in the program. That's it for the September recap.
Great, thanks, Mercy. And then Mike is out, but we have a video update, so we'll take it away.
Good morning, everyone. I am on a plane to Seattle right now, so doing my first Loom Friday Forum. Very exciting. A couple of posts up this week. We turned Dr. Lustig's great metabolic book club into a post, basically just the transcript, slightly cleaned up for reading, and with some section headers in there so people can kind of jump around to different topics, but tons of great stuff in there. And then also put up a piece this week on dietary guidelines. Shout out to Tom. This was an idea that he sent us a few months ago. Basically this wording, like why are dietary guidelines so screwed up? Why have they recommended carbs for so long? So again, relying a lot on Dr. Lustig's books, Dr. Hyman's books, and some other research, a writer kind of dug into this. And I think it's a really nice overview of what dietary guidelines are and why they recommend what they do and how they still need to change. And then finally, on the everyone on content front, shout out to Mike D. This was one of the first examples we thought of when we were thinking about everyone on content pieces. We really wanted to hear Mike talk about this. So this is a really excellent piece. And I'm so excited to have this one up. One more slide, beginning of the month, we want to go through some stats. The TLDR for September was still a very strong month. You'll see it's slightly down in overall traffic from August. August was blockbuster, but our numbers are still really high compared to June and July, and certainly the months before that. So, and on the right, you'll see some of these stats, backlinks, featured snippets, first page keywords. These are all basically SEO metrics that really show the work we've been doing the last 6 months or so with our firm, I think is starting to kind of kick in and pay off. SEO is a very long game, but it's good to see these numbers climbing, at least for now. So pretty happy about that. Quickly, I'm excited to be heading to Seattle this week on the personal front. On the professional front, just want to say psyched to have Tony on board. Watching his edit of Ms. and Ben's conversation this week just felt reminded me of when Alan joined, and felt like we have this new superpower that we didn't have before. So excited to see what else happens there. Thanks all. See ya.
Great. Thanks, Mike. And that's it. We're off to individual contributions. So yeah, good timing this week. And Gabriel, feel free to kick us off.
Hey, yeah, so really excited about the launch of the Nutritionist Marketplace. Can't wait to get some more data on that and see how it's going. Personally, I'm going to the first Cub Sox home playoff game this weekend, so I'm very excited about that.
Awesome. Have fun. On my end, I'd say the nutritionist pilot launch was great to see. Happy to see the product really coming together. I mentioned this earlier, but nice to see that the polish on that. Excited to get the offering out there to more members, and the same, excited for the blood test offering. On the personal side, was at a wedding last week in Scottsdale and have a wedding this weekend up in Muir Beach. So celebrating all those COVID weddings that have been postponed. Take it away, Kunal.
Echoing what Gabriel and Miz said, really cool to see the nutritionist project come along and be launched out there. It was unbelievably fast. So it's super cool to see. A bunch of social features are right on the cusp of being launched too. So really excited to get those across the line. And on a personal front, just going to have a relaxing weekend, maybe going for some long runs.
Great. For Alan.
I want to echo a lot of nutritionists love today. I mean, it's really amazing to see how quickly that came together. Not design of the lift was very light, and then all of a sudden I just saw Tom and Gabriel and David just run with it, and it turned out really well. So I'm super impressed with all the collaboration there and the pace of work. Personal side, looks like I spent a bunch of time this week selling our house. House is sold, so we get a little bit closer to moving towards New York. So excited about that.
Right in time for the freezing Bay Area weather hitting us this weekend. Enjoy the move. Good luck. Ben.
Levels, stoked to have Tony on board. This is awesome. As far as projects going on, so hat tip David, Alan, Gabe, and Tommy. Seems like nutritionist just flew and was pretty fluid as far as getting over the line. It was very cool to watch that from the sidelines. As far as personal front, it's now becoming fall and all the leaves are changing and it's really pretty. So really enjoy this time of year. Carve Out is Seth Rogen's new book called Yearbook. It is a masterclass in storytelling and probably the best audiobook from a production standpoint I've ever listened to. So if you like Seth Rogen, it's absolutely hilarious and well worth digging into.
Check it out. Justin.
For me, really excited about like the onboarding sign up stuff. Looks great. And I love getting stuff inside the app that, is typically on the web or whatever. So that's great to see. And personally, it's Canadian Thanksgiving. So going out to my brother's cabin and just having like a small kind of Thanksgiving dinner, just us, and yeah, should be good.
Great. Happy Thanksgiving. Murillo's out. Congrats on the wedding, Murillo. Helena. Oh, sorry, Steph. We're in the same place.
Yeah, right. We could just speak together. Like, levels wise, it's been awesome to work really closely with Alan these past few weeks on the design stuff. I'm just continually amazed at how quickly you ship stuff out. Oh yeah, come on over. And they can't hear you because I have my headphones in. So anyway, yeah, the design stuff has been going great. The turnaround with seeing these things shipped in the app has been fantastic and really fun to just be active on threads and actually take more of a product focused role and give input. And then personally, Helena is not leaving me for all you folks in New York this weekend. And so I'm excited to like unplug and go to the beach and really enjoy spending time together. So that's it.
Awesome. Have fun out there. And Helena, take it away.
Okay. I'm standing on a chair because as we've recently discovered, Steph is very tall. So, levels wise, I'm really excited to sort of wrap up some of the guided journey stuff. And I'll be live Notion doc later today. And then that's kind of informing the next project, which is going to be personalized insights, which I've been excited about since I joined Levels. And I would appreciate everyone's input on that document as well when that's live next week. And then on a personal note, I'm just excited to be back here and do some exploring.
Awesome. Sounds great. Sam, are you out there? All right. Casey.
Yeah, so levels wise, could not be more excited about having Tony join. Welcome, Tony. Also just so impressed by the nutritionist pilot. And it just seems like such an incredible model example of how this responsible individual model works and just super amazing collaboration. So congratulations to everyone who worked on that. And then I think, yeah, just huge to see the milestones on Whole New Level, and the listenership we're getting. Just amazing work, Ben, driving that forward. And personally and professionally, I'm going to the Mind Body Green office today in Dumbo, Brooklyn, and meeting with the two co-founders, Colleen and Jason. I did the Mind Body Green podcast this week, and I've been reading their site forever, and so excited to meet them in person at the office. And next week I'll be out on a Think Week, finishing up book proposal. So I'll be around, but not super in the loop next week.
Great. Who are we at? Jeremy is also out, so Mercy, go for it.
Yeah, I am excited to be back at work. I had a whole week off where I got to hang out with my family, see Josh get married. I met a lot of Levels peoples in real life. So it's nice to kind of like be back in my routine and back into the swing of things. Personally, my nephew turns 1 today, so we're gonna have a little party for him, and I think he's gonna have cake for the first time in his life. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah.
Awesome. Have fun. Speaking of little guys, Nate, Zach.
Yeah, so I'm glad to be back. Been out for the past 2 weeks. So I'm super excited to introduce little Nate. He's just kind of like a little red-faced dude right now, but he's super sweet. He arrived like 5 weeks early. We were a little freaked out, but turns out he's just small, but he eats like a pig. He's a great kid. Doesn't cry too much. So we're pretty happy. Other personal things, we actually closed on our house yesterday. So this next week is going to be extra crazy because it's like new baby plus move, but it should work out. Anyway, I expect lots of photos of Nate. That's it. It's pretty cool.
That was awesome. Thanks, Zach. Jesse, go for it.
Wow, it's awesome to see a baby on the screen. Congrats, Zach. Yeah, professionally, really cool to see the in-app onboarding and the nutritionist marketplace. Also really excited to get the Mission Patches 2.0 rolling. I'll have a formal update on that next week. Personally, I watched Casey's Instagram story of her Whole Foods haul and went basically bought the same exact thing. So I'm excited to eat and run this weekend.
You're really influencing here, Casey.
Yeah.
Hope you get Whole Foods commissions. Braden is, I think, in Mexico and out. Tom.
Yeah, on the Levels front, too many things. Tony joining, so excited to have Tony on board. I've worked with Tony in the past, and he's just the absolute best. Formally working with David Sinclair and Andrew Huberman is so exciting to me. The in-person hangouts in the city, the big dinner with a bunch of team members, and then also did a photo shoot with Kunal and Stacy earlier this week, which was a lot of fun. And then personally, very excited this weekend. My brother and I have about 10 of our best friends here in Cape Cod. So excited to hang out with them.
Great, enjoy. Dom.
Oh, Dom, me or Tom?
Yeah,
I'm just
Dom, you're up. Sorry.
Oh, Dom, sorry. Yeah, things are great. We had a team meeting today and we were going over the data from the CGM study. We have to recruit another cohort. The sleep data and the psychological data associated with using a CGM is very interesting. So we need to recruit another cohort to increase our sample size to get more power. I'm off to Hawaii this week for the High Seas Space Mission. My wife is there now. So I'm excited about that. That's what's on my agenda for the week.
Great. I listened to a podcast about that a few years ago, and it's been in my mind ever since. That's awesome. Enjoy.
Thanks.
Mike D.
Yeah, definitely want to plus one to some of the big things. Definitely Tony joining. It's pretty awesome. The Whole New Level progress, and definitely kudos to Tom and Gabriel for getting the nutritionist marketplace rolled out so quickly. And then definitely Tom reminded me of the David Sinclair thing. That's huge. Personally, I was at a wedding last weekend, and similar to Ms., I have another wedding this weekend. So hopefully that will be fun.
Keep your whoop score in check, okay? Scott.
Professionally, I got to spend a lot of good time with Andrew this week. You guys saw the model, but we also just talked about sort of team changes and kind of what to expect coming up. I think specifically we've been talking to the dev team at large about, hey, is Notion still serving our interests? Is it maybe time to bring like a Clubhouse or a Linear back? And so we started digging in a little bit. I think more to come on that. No decisions made yet, but it was really fun to like evaluate them in a context of async. So we're not just like bringing old habits from old companies in, but it was like, how can we bring in the principles and also modify it so that we don't disrupt people's deep work? So I really appreciated that. I was really thankful for that chat. Personally, I got up at like 4:30 to get an Apple Watch, and I'm excited about that, and that'll come next week. So
great. Stacey.
Professionally, so happy Tony's joined us. And then we also had a great week just spending time in New York with all of our Levels team members and one particular member named Janae, who was really inspiring. I can't wait to share the photos from this and some video we took with her. And then personally, David said our special weekend plans already, but I'm really excited to have my dad here for the first time. And we're going to like jam pack the weekend with all sorts of New England autumnal things. So really, really excited for that.
Great. And how much you guys love that. So enjoy. And JM, wrap it up.
Thanks. I had a really good Levels week in person, starting with photos with Stacy and my daughter, Lily. We were terrible. So anything that comes out good is to her credits, Stacy's that is. And I also got to meet a bunch of folks the following night at dinner, which was great. On a personal note, my in-laws are in town. I've made jokes about that on this forum before, but in all seriousness, I'm glad to see them. It's nice to have extra grownups around, and they'll be here for a couple weeks. Thank you.
All right. That's it with 10 seconds to spare. Thanks everyone for a great week. We'll hang around for the cafe afterwards if you are. Otherwise, enjoy your weekends and see you next week.